This series of presentations and associated documents is about presenting results. To be more specific, we're talking about presenting the results of research. Unless your research is only for your own casual interest, you will need to present the results somewhere. Maybe a scientific paper, a poster, a popular article. Perhaps you'll present them in a talk or to your supervisor. These situations are all different, and we'll explore some of those differences. However, there are some principles and practices that are common across all these situations. Some of those are the subject of this first video. We were motivated to put these ideas together by research on agroecology done with farmers, and the examples we use are from that field. But most of the ideas are relevant to presenting research results from almost any area. And the first idea is that effective presenting of results involves telling stories. That often comes as a surprise, so let me explain. Think of results of applied scientific research. They should have the characteristics of good science, such as being rigorous, dependable, complete, and relevant to the problem investigated. Now think of effective storytelling as found in novels, films, or newspapers, or even by people. Good storytellers will capture your imagination, bring new perspectives, open minds. Effective presentation of research results brings these two together. Simply documenting your research as what I did is reporting. It's sometimes needed, but it's a different task from presenting your results to get a message across to someone. Please don't misunderstand when I describe presenting of research results as storytelling. I'm not suggesting you make things up or rely on anecdotes or repeat myths. The basics of science still apply. These are the elements of a good research story, any research story. First, the message that you want your audience to remember. It needs to be important, it needs to be novel, it's research after all. It needs to be interesting and perhaps surprising or unexpected. And it needs to be relevant to problems that they want to solve. Second, the argument. There needs to be a logical sequence from the known to the new result. Scientific theory will come into that. The argument needs to be convincing, as skeptics will try to find flaws in it. And third, you need the evidence that supports the argument. These are the data and the observations that you table to back up your claims made in the story. There are three further characteristics of a good research story, which are characteristics of a scientific approach. The first is honesty, describing openly and truthfully what you did and found out. We can't go into all the dimensions of research integrity here, but they are important. The second is to embrace uncertainty. That's why statistical concepts such as standard errors and sample size will be part of presenting results. It also includes openly describing what is unknown. For example, we might have the exciting result that 50% of the farmers adopted the new variety, but that goes along with 50% did not adopt it, and we don't know why not. There are multiple interpretations of most research observations. As you tell a story, you use one of those and need to explain why you dismiss or don't pay attention to the others. Your research results mark progress in science. If you think carefully about that progress, then you can formulate and tell the story. Here is a framework for doing that. For any topic or phenomenon, there are two states of knowledge, represented here by red and green circles. The red circle says there are data or observations we cannot explain with current theory. Something we have observed doesn't line up with expectations. The green circle is the alternative. We have a theory or explanation for what we observe. We understand what is happening and there are no surprises. Now think of the research process. For your topic, you start in the green or red state, you do your research, and you end up in a green or red state. Thus, there are four possible situations of green to green, red to red, green to red, and red to green. The message you have to tell is different in each case. It's easier to tell a good story about some than others. I'll use a very simple example to illustrate the point. Your research results will be more interesting than this example. First, green to green. We expected something, and then it happened. For example, we expected farmers' yields to increase when they applied fertilizer, and they did. It can be hard to find an interesting story in such results, but there might be a story based on the situation in which the research was done. Perhaps no one had tried fertilizer on those crops or in that place before. Second, red to red. There was something we didn't understand, we investigated, and we still don't understand. For example, we didn't know why crop yields are low here. We tried out several ideas, but it turned out none of them were the right explanation, and we still don't know why the crop yields are low. There might be a story along the lines of, at least we know it's not one of the factors investigated, but it can be hard convincing others that you investigated carefully and have a real mystery to unravel there. The other two cases are easier to tell good stories about. Green to red means we thought we knew, but something unexpected has turned up, meaning our current theory or understanding is deficient. There is a new problem to solve. For example, we expected these nitrogen-deficient crops to respond to nitrogen fertilizer, but they didn't, and we don't know why. The simple understanding of apply nitrogen if the crop is nitrogen deficient is inadequate in this case, and there is a mystery to investigate. Red to green is maybe what every researcher hopes for. We start with something unknown, do the research, and can now explain it. We didn't know why these crops were doing poorly and have now discovered the reasons. This might be a detective story, and there will probably be a message about why this is important and what this new understanding allows us to do. In many contexts, there are no clear boundaries between research and action or development. And trying to describe the results that you have obtained with a development project still requires you to identify a compelling story. The results to present may be about changes that have been observed. For example, farmers doing something new. We still need to find the core message in those results and build the story around it. These messages might be inspired by the theory of change which you have for your project. This is the vision of how actions will bring about desirable changes. The messages in your results might be about making action effective or confirming that actions do lead to change. The way you present your story will depend on the audience and the medium. They, in turn, will determine things such as format, whether it's text or pictures, paper or video, the length, and the language, whether it's formal or informal. We'll look at these in later parts of this series, but for any effective presentation of results, the starting point must be deciding what the key message is and how you will make it into a compelling story.